conference finals start tonight, and we're not in it. Damn it. Let's get into it with the lead. Actually, big psych. We're not going to get into it at all.
No.
Do you give a shit about Carolina, Florida?
Not even sure who's in it anymore, to be honest.
Carolina, Florida.
Don't care.
I'm mildly intrigued to see if the Panthers can keep this miracle run going.
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing that I'm like, all right, well, that'll be cool. And I would like to see. I'm going to say something now, and I don't mean this to be a personal attack on the man, but I'm saying this because I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't want Jesse Puljujarvi to win the Stanley Cup.
I don't either.
It's nothing to do with him.
Be
it's
cool
to do
for
with
him.
all of you.
Yeah. Twitter, when it's like, oh, Puljujarvi won a ring before the Oilers. I'm like, well, he was healthy scratched a lot, even though they were missing a lot of other forwards.
He was on the ice for the overtime goal. Well, so what?
Yeah. How many overtime goals was Kyler Yamamoto on the ice for, Liam?
Yeah, one game-winning goal. Shout out, Yessie.
Yeah, shout out, Yessie. Welcome into Oilersnation Everyday, live from the Sports Closet studio and live on the Oilersnation YouTube, where our boy Owen is in and says, hey, I'm first again. I really want to see the Oilers get Connor Brown, cheap top six right-wing scorer. Max Pacioretty intrigues me. Max Pacioretty should intrigue you. He would score a boatload of goals here in Edmonton. American-born player. I don't know if he's exactly itching to play in Canada for $1 million, though.
And he's also dealt with the highest amount of media, being the captain of the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
Wasn't he only the second non-French speaking player to be the captain? I think it was Brian Gionta was the first, and then it went straight to Max Pacioretty.
Pacioretty kind of sounds French.
It does. He's super American.
Super American.
But yeah, I don't think he's got any cravings to come up and play in Edmonton.
Well, because the thing with a guy like Pacioretty, one, the Oilers aren't going to be able to offer him a ton of money. No. I don't think anyone will offer him a ton of money coming off that injury. If the Oilers can offer him 1.5, there will be 3 or 4 American markets that also offer him 1.5. If you have the choice between Tampa, tax-free, $1.5 million, Edmonton, winter, $1.5 million,
Yeah, I know where I would pick. It's kind of like the same discussion of Corey Perry yesterday.
Yeah, which is why me and you are debating turning this into Tampa Bay Lightning every day and living in Florida.
Hey, twist my rubber out.
All righty. Guitar Maniac also hopped in and said, you forgot to talk about Max Pacioretty as an option yesterday. I mean, forgot.
It came across my mind.
Yeah.
But kind of feels pointless.
Adam is in and says, I would love Carson Ceci on our blue line. Ceci for Ceci sounds great. I mean, audibly, Ceci for Ceci does sound great. Carson Ceci is a UFA, so you don't have to trade anything for him.
Is he a righty?
No, he's a lefty.
Kind of running into a bit of an obstacle there. But again, kind of spoke about this yesterday too. Does it matter? How much does it matter? If you have 4 defensemen that are lefties, 2 that are righties, but they can all play very, very well. For me, if it becomes an option, sure, but you would have to move out CC for something at least.
That was weird.
That did move, right?
Yeah, it moved. We're not going crazy. The Viking Alberta native Carson Ceci, I think he's kind of like a Brett Kulak, right? He's got some more size, 6'5", probably a bit meaner than Brett Kulak as well. Maybe doesn't move quite as well, but I see him in the same ilk as a guy you can really trust to play third-bearing minutes, who you can elevate at times if you need to. But I agree. If you had 4 lefties and 2 righties to start the year, as long as your 7th defenseman was a righty, I think that'd be fine. I think the issue we'd run into with this Oilers team is if you keep Broberg and you want to sign Ceci and you trade Cody Ceci, then you're sitting at a situation where it's okay, we actually have 5 lefties and 2 righties, and one of them's got to sit. It gets complicated in a hurry, I think.
Yeah, it does. I think one thing that's intriguing, and this kind of crossed my mind too, is we've discussed that a lot. This free agency class isn't the best. I think you can get some good depth players, but and I have not looked at this yet, but I wonder what the trade deadline class could look like. I know we're kind of looking really far down the line there, but I wonder if Ken Holland's you know what, maybe we won't go right to the cap in free agency because this guy, and this guy might be available. I mean, Ken Holland's
leave $500K, let it accumulate.
Yeah, see what happens. And it's the first year they're not in LTIR under Ken Holland.
Yep.
So as right now anyway, so we'll see. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what that kind of group looks like. Max Pacioretty's name was tossed around yesterday on Twitter. I think he's going right back to Chicago.
Max Domi.
Max Domi. Sorry, it's just on my mind now.
You were like, Max Pacioretty's name is getting tossed around. I'm like, yeah, we just did it like 4 minutes ago.
You heard about that? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if Domi's going to go. I think he'll have enough contenders that he debates signing with a contender.
How's he been with Dallas? I
Good.
feel like he's been pretty serviceable, right?
Games.
He's a good player.
Yep.
I'd like him on the Oilers, but do you really want to move out Yamamoto to bring in a guy of similar stature? Better player, but...
Yeah, better player, a little bit grittier. No, I wouldn't do that. I think he's going to cost you $3 million, and the Oilers can't sign a $3 million player. They're trying to get rid of $3 million players, which brings us to our Sherwood Ford Giant offseason question of the day. We're wasting no time, Liam. We are jumping right into it.
All right.
What will the Oilers blue line look like next season? Now, our boy Aaron has pulled up the cap-friendly page, and as you can see, if Ken Holland or Steve Stais or whoever's running this hockey team during the offseason decides you could just bring back the same crew. You could bridge Evan Bouchard, give him a $3 million deal for the next 2 years, and you could run back the same 7 defensemen that you had these playoffs. Is that smart? I'm torn on it. I think on one hand, a full season of Ekholm and Bouchard as a pairing could make life easier on a Ceci Nurse pairing. That's intriguing to me. I think Cody Ceci can be better than he was this year. I think he's got that in him. I don't know if we fully get first-year Cody Ceci, who I loved. I think we're somewhere in the middle of the 2 seasons. And we're going to get to Ceci a little bit more in depth in just a second here. Would it be a mistake to bring back the same 7 D-men? I guess that's my first question.
I think I'll say yes. I think sometimes just getting a new face in the picture can be very beneficial. The Oilers saw the outcome of that when they acquired Mattias Ekholm, and I know he's a high-end defenseman, and I think he would chase most teams, but you bring in that new identity, they have new ideas. It's kind of the same idea of like changing your assistant coaches every few years, right? Like this blue line has been together now. This would be coming up to the 3rd season of like the core group, I guess you could say. So I wouldn't be disappointed if Cody Ceci came back, because I think you're right in saying I don't think we'll get the Cody Ceci we got this year again. I think he is a much better defenseman than what he showed, and the value we got in year 1 is what you would obviously want to see a little bit more of. But I'll go on the other side of it and say I would like Ken Holland to make some adjustments on the blue line.
I think a lot of people would agree with you as well. And we got some people in here saying, hey, maybe you move on from Desharnais. I don't know why you would. He makes $750K.
Yeah.
He can be your 7th defenseman at worst next year, or he can play a lot like he did this year. Like I think you're stupid to let a guy like Darnell go. Broberg, I'm on the fence about.
Yeah, we talked about this.
And he's kind of the interesting one, because if you decide to move Broberg, which, I mean, wouldn't that be something for Ken Holland to do, right? Move the first pick he made. And I think we almost did this with Bouchard in a weird way too. I think we're forgetting how young Philip Broberg is. He's 21. Top 10 pick. Would you have liked him to, come around a little quicker? Absolutely. But he's fine in the NHL. He didn't really struggle all that hard in playoff games. Like, he was adequate. And he's 21. We know defensemen take longer to develop. Evan Bouchard popped off in the back half of this year. That's the back half of his 23-year-old season. He popped off.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we and again, I'm someone who's bringing it up. I'm like, hey, it's time to, again, pardon my language, shit or get off the pot with Broberg is what I said on Oilers Nation Radio. But now I'm going, he's 21. Like, why are we freaking out that he's not a top 4 D-man yet? Do we need to give him more time? Do you need to make room for him and debate moving a guy like Kulak? I think it's a mistake. I think you can play Kulak on the right side with Broberg next year. That can be your 3rd pairing. Vinny's your 7th D. I don't hate that plan, and I think there's reason to expect next year at some point is when Broberg takes not a Bouchard-esque step, because he's not going to be PP1, he's not going to be PP2, but a step forward in terms of his ability at 5-on-5, because I actually think he's got the ceiling to be a better 5-on-5 defender than Evan Bouchard is.
I think he'll be a better defender overall than Evan Bouchard will be. I think you're right in saying that he was good in the playoffs. Like I shouldn't say, yeah, you know what? He was good in the playoffs. He had that rough game when he took the 2 penalties. One of them wasn't his fault. One of them he just kind of fell down onto. But I think he's a guy you can put out there and trust. And I would like to see the Oilers continue to have that trust in him and play him a little bit more. I think next season I would like to see him on that 3rd pairing with a Brett Kulak. And also in a similar sense, by the time Broberg becomes 23 years old, like Evan Bouchard, Mattias Ekholm will be 36 or whatever he will be, and his contract will be over, right? So maybe that's when you can kind of elevate him then. Like, he's very sheltered right now, and maybe you can do that with what they did with Bouchard this year. Is like, okay, you gradually mix him into things, and then you can move out a Tyson Berry to get him in. So yeah, I would like Broberg to stay. I think other players would have to go before I consider Broberg.
You want 7 quality D-men because someone always gets hurt. And if you're healthy scratching one of Vinny or Broberg every night to have that solid group of 7, then I'm in. I think that's the smart thing. I mean, let's be real. You're going to need an 8th defenseman at some point. And I mean, you may not have the option of waiving Marcus Niemelainen anymore. You know, maybe Cam Dineen's that guy. I don't know. You might need 9 defensemen throughout the year. This team needs to add more depth to the blue line. So I think any talk of trading Desharnais is wildly foolish. And unless there is some slam dunk home run deal and the team saying, yeah, we're only pulling the trigger on you getting Travis Konechny if you include Philip Broberg, okay, well then the conversation changes. Do I think they should be going out of their way to try find a new home for Philip Broberg? No. I don't think you're like Yamamoto, Ceci, even to an extent Fogle still. If some team's like, hey, we're going to give you a 3rd round pick, done deal. Sign it. If some team's like, hey, we'll give you an early 2nd for Broberg, I'm not pulling the trigger on that.
No, me neither. It would have to be a 1st round pick, and maybe
even
a little bit more. I think he's going to be a good play for this team, and you're signing Evan Bouchard to this, whatever it may be now, maybe around $4 million. Like, you do need value contracts on your team, and if you can get a Desharnais at, what is he, 750 or whatever it is, and then also a Broberg on his rookie deal still, like I think that's more valuable to the team than having to move on from a Philip Broberg. Yeah. And I agree with you. The Oilers do need to find way more depth on the blue line. Then if they do get in situations where Darnell Nurse gets suspended or like Cody Ceci is carrying an injury for most of the year, they can adjust and they can bring in somebody whose name isn't Jason Demers.
Yeah, and the tough part is finding those guys, right? I mean, can you pick up players who you're confident enough will slide through waivers and who can hang out in your minor system and you just bring up? That's where your pro scouting's got to come through, right? You got to identify guys who other organizations don't see as NHL fits, get them in your minors to start the year, and then they're your call-ups. So that's where drafting well certainly helps out as well. We mentioned they acquired a guy like Cam Dineen who will probably play a bit of that role next year. I wonder if maybe next season, like, I don't watch enough of the Condors to give like an educated answer on this, but like I see a guy like Philip Kemp, who I know a couple of years ago started to make some big steps before turning pro. Like, are you good with Kemp and Dineen and Niemelainen down in Bakersfield being your trio? Is Niemelainen going to want to hang out here for another year if he sees 4 left shot defensemen in front of him on the depth chart? Maybe he goes home. Maybe he says he wants out. I don't know. So I think there'll be this team needs to add more depth pieces on the blue line. And that's going to actually be an interesting challenge this year, like this offseason. Because again, like I think me and you were both just doing the same thing. You're scrolling through Cap Friendly, looking at who the free agent D-men are. And it's like, okay, like, you know, Mark Pysyk, Luke Shen, Connor Clifton, Troy Stetcher, Nick Holden. These are all guys who I think would make like interesting 7s, but they're not guys who are in all likelihood going to sign here if you're like, hey, assignment 1 for you is Bakersfield.
It's funny you mentioned those guys, and 2 of 3 or whatever were Edmonton area players.
I would love like
maybe because Mark Pysyk got a bad injury this year. He didn't play.
He signed in Detroit and tore his ACL before the season started.
Yeah, so I think he was a player last year we kind of talked about as being like a depth piece.
I'd love him.
Did score a hat trick once as a right winger in the NHL for Florida.
Versatile is what he is. I think Mark Pysyk would be a really intriguing fit. His analytics are always really, really solid. And if he's a guy who's like, again, I need to rebuild my career a little bit. Let me come into camp, sign me for 1 year, $1 million.
PTO.
Hashtag PTO, everyone. We're not there yet. That's for the summer shows, Liam. A PTO candidate of the day. Don't tempt me with a good time. What did Ken Holland called the Stanley Cup party machine? I call PTO season a party machine. That's what I'm all about. I think Mark Pysyk would be an interesting fit lower on that depth chart. Sherwood Park boy, correct. Former Edmonton Oil King. Hello. Again, they'll need to do a good job, and hopefully this is something Steve Staios is good at if he's going to be around with the organization for the summer, is like identifying some guys. He's got a good scouting background who you can bring in here because you need to get a better layer of depth. They got fortunate this year. Everyone played.
Yeah, they did. They really, really did. Like, obviously, Evander Kane missed time, but
On the blue line,
On the blue line,
played.
everyone was good. Yeah.
And even up front, like you missed Kane. McDavid Draisaitl new time and played. You didn't deal with something. Kane is substantial, but like, you know what I'm saying?
Would Mark Pysyk fall under that contract range we spoke about with Frank? Because we only really spoke about forwards that could do it. I wonder if he could because of his long-term injury. But he's played a long time.
My counter argument, like a guy like Connor Brown or a Max Pacioretty, there's a chance they come in, pop off for 30 goals, and it's like a tangible, like, damn, they did good.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to bonus a guy like Mark Pysyk. He should be eyeing up a contract.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
Fighting Amish. Didn't Pysyk score a hat trick against us once? It wasn't against us. I think it was against like Dallas or something. He was with the Panthers. They put him up on right wing for a game because they were banged up, and he scored a hattie. It was sick.
I'll look it up.
What a moment.
I've met Mark Pysyk once. Great guy. Very nice man. It was against I don't know. Comeback victory. It doesn't say.
Okay, well. Pysyk scored. He scores a decent amount for a defenseman. Anyways, I like the idea of Mark Pysyk as a piece. Ryan Sharp. I've wanted Pysyk for the last 5 years. So have I, man.
It was against Toronto.
Oh,
that's funny.
Some talk about moving out forwards and things like that. Sure. Someone asked about Ryan O'Reilly. He's not coming here. He's either trying to get one more big ticket, or he's signing in St. Louis or Toronto.
How about just on that, the comments from Chris Johnston yesterday? When he was going through, I can't remember what show he was on, but he was going through the Leafs roster, and they were just asking him, like, stay or gone. And he got to Mitch Marner, and he's like, if you asked me today, I'd say gone. Luckily, they asked him today, and he said gone. So, interesting wrinkle there. He said Nylander was staying.
Maybe that's a topic for the trade machine one day.
Maybe.
We're not going to get to that yet. Not getting to that yet. Instead, we're going to get to our player grade for today, Liam, and it is brought to you by Star Mechanical, Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. If you need 24/7 emergency service, do you have the number memorized yet?
780-481-8873.
Aaron bailed you out. That's what happened there. Shout out to Star Mechanical. Find out more, starmechanical.ca. We are moving in order of jersey numbers. Yesterday, Bouchard. I said 90% chance on the graphic of him coming back. I'm going to up that. I think it's more like 95, 96% chance.
People were quite worried about it, actually, when
they were.
put that out there.
They were, and I probably should have been higher. Anyways, today it is Cody Ceci. Scored 1 goal. It was like the second game of the year, then didn't score again. But you don't pay Cody Ceci to score you goals. You pay him to defend well and eat minutes. And where I'll give him credit is that he played 80 games and he ate a lot of minutes.
Yep.
He has a tough ask. He makes $3.25 million. And he's supposed to be basically a top-pairing defenseman for this team. And early on in the season, when it was Barry and Bouchard behind him, he was their only right-shot D-man who was good defense, who is defense first. Is how I'll phrase that.
Defensively, yeah.
Still, he struggled. I'm starting to maybe regret my regular season grade a little bit. I want to knock him up a little bit. I think I'm going to change this from C- to C+. He wasn't good enough, even though the ask is hard. He wasn't good enough, in my opinion, to have a B grade in either of these two scenarios. In the playoffs, I thought he really struggled and made a lot of boneheaded moves that cost them goals. And again, no matter how much you make, some of it was effort and focus based, in my opinion, which is why I'm grading him as tough as I am. He doesn't move the puck particularly well. He's never going to help you out offensively. He skates up the ice okay at times and things like that. I think he actually does have like a decent offensive brain when it comes to the game. But the issue for me is that he didn't do the physical things well enough. That goal we talked about, whatever it was, game 3, where he just stood there and let Eichel and Marchessault do whatever they want. That can't happen. And come playoff time, every play matters that much. So I'm going to up his regular season grade to C+. His playoff grade for me is C-. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, before you send me what you're going to do, I put my grades on the graphic and I edited them accordingly. I had him as a C for the regular season. I thought there was points in the year you didn't really hear from him, but as the year went on, he gradually did get worse. And I actually had him as a C- as well. For the playoffs, I think for a guy who was so effective for them in the playoffs last season and very reliable, he kind of just fell apart at points. And I think when the team defense overall was so bad in the playoffs, most of it relies on that top 2 pairing of Nurse and Ceci. And I think when you look at them too, a lot of the mistakes came from Ceci rather than Nurse. So, yeah, I think that's fair. And I also had him at a 50% chance of returning because out of all the defensemen, he's the one I think that should be moved if you're going to move anybody.
Yeah. 50%. I really do think it's a coin flip, man.
I do too.
I'd be interested to see what people have to say in the chat. Adarath says, do you package Broberg for an upgrade on Ceci? So I'm assuming you mean package Broberg and Ceci. The tough part with that is Broberg would be of interest to teams who aren't contending. Ceci, he's of interest to a very small amount of teams, I think, right? Teams that have money are looking to take a step forward maybe and want a reliable guy to insulate young D-men. I don't know if Broberg and Ceci, if like of the Venn diagram of teams interested in one and the other, I don't know how many are in that middle group, if any. So I'm not sure if you can just straight up do that. Les says, Tyler, if you're grading Ceci that hard, I hope you're giving Nurse a D grade. I mean, we'll get to Nurse on whatever day we get to Nurse. But he also added Ceci's barely a number 4 guy. And someone said, you got to give Ceci a look away from Nurse. Listen, if we're going to sit here and be like, if you're going to be hard on Nurse, if you're going to call Ceci barely a number 4 guy, okay, well, you were asking Darnell Nurse to play top pairing minutes. You were asking Ceci to play top pairing minutes as well. I think we can all agree Darnell Nurse is a top 4 guy. I am still of the belief that Darnell Nurse is a top 2 guy. He's not a 1, but he can be a top 2. You got to play him with talent. And you're playing him with a guy who, Les, as you said, is barely a number 4. So can you be hard on Darnell Nurse and criticize his ability as a top pairing D-man when you're trying to ask him to play top pairing minutes with a guy who's barely a number 4, in your opinion? That's my problem with that line of thinking.
Yeah, I don't think that's very fair, is it? Like, you're asking, that role is supposed to be, Ceci is supposed to be the defensive-minded player on that team. And it honestly feels like a lot of the time Nurse is kind of making up for the mistakes Ceci is making when he turns over the puck in poor ways or isn't playing physical. So I think Nurse actually has to overdo a lot of things when he plays with Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci, for me, needs to play more physically and be more tough on players. And when that happens, I think that's kind of when he's playing at his best. And I think we saw
season
that
one
more last season, the year before. Yeah, so that's what I want to see more from Ceci this year. I don't really care if he scores goals. Like, he scored 1 goal, 15 points this season. Plus 11 for scoring 15 points is actually a pretty good rate, in my opinion. Like, he's not out there a lot, I don't think, trying to be offensive, right? And dude, you know what was weird, actually? In the playoffs, I saw him like 3 or 4 times like up in the rush.
Yeah, especially late in that Vegas series, he was jumping up more.
Yeah, nosebleeds.
Adarath adds, it could be move Broberg and Ceci in separate deals. What do you think the appetite is to trade Broberg in a win now mode? And we kind of touched on that off the jump. Like, again, you're not going out of your way to move him, but he's not untouchable anymore. He still has that first round pick shine. I'm sure there are GMs out there who would be interested in taking a stab at him, but his value is also not that high. So I think I'd rather just see if we can run out and try to see the upside here. I think the upside of running out one more year of Broberg is greater than the upside of potentially moving him for a pick and then trying to take a gamble. I don't know. Scott Aroni with a great joke. Cody, and then of CC, he did C-, C-. CC. It is fitting we gave him 2 C grades on there. Ryan Sharp, CC was a C-, and this coming from a guy who bought his new McFarland jersey this year.
Ooh. Sorry, Ryan. I want to pass that one on. To be fair, I got Devin's score, so
yeah, but you're buying into a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it's all about. Good and you with an interesting one. Ceci was much better the year before. I wouldn't send him out before seeing if he can bounce back. Here's the problem with that: if he bounces back, great. Cody Ceci 3.2 year 1 Ceci was good. If he doesn't, unmovable. So if there's a bit of value, this is why you pay GMs big bucks. If there's a shred of value in him right now, do you move on from him because you can get a better piece somewhere else? Wise Kyle's all in. He's sent in a bunch of times. Severson. Brendan, Ceci gone. It's Severson time. I think we are getting major grass is always greener vibes here with Damon Severson. He is not great offensively. He's going to cost you $1.5 million probably more than Cody Ceci. He turns over pucks quite a bit. I don't know if Damon Severson's the answer. Severson, good Lord, I don't want to learn. I don't think I want to see the Oilers go 4 by 4.5 on Severson or Severson. Whichever way you say it, I don't want him to pay him.
He's second on Frank's board, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he's good, but like, I don't think we're evaluating the player properly here. If you're going to go, like, okay, again, if he costs you, I think he might cost you $4.5 to $5 million because he might be one of the highest paid D-men on the market. I'd be more tempted to take a flyer on Matt Dumba if he wants to try rebound. I think yeah, like if you can get him at 3.25 on a short-term deal as he tries to, you know, bounce back his career a little bit, I would do that if you could move Ceci and bring in a guy like Dumba on the cheap. I think he pinches like crazy. I think he gives up a ton of odd mans. I don't know if he's a top pairing solution, but I'd be more interested in a cheaper flyer on Dumba than I would be at. And I just don't think it's realistic to think they can pay a lot of money for a guy like Severson. Hate that name.
Did Dumba play with Nuge in Red Deer, or were they years apart? Okay, played a couple of seasons when Dumba was 17. Yeah, I think the Oilers need a bit more stability than a Matt Dumba, though.
I think so too.
The Severson thing too. Like, I want Cody Ceci to kind of be here because that's kind of the player we need to have. Someone who's just like, I'm just going to try and stop them from scoring. They just need to find someone who's a bit more consistent than what Cody Ceci has shown this past year. Again, maybe he bounces back. But like you said, like, you don't have time to wait and find out, because if he does bounce back, then you don't want to trade him. It's kind of a weird spot.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you're confident Susie can play the right side, you know that's my dog. Radko Gudas, if Florida lets him go, I don't know if I love him as an option full time. Justin Hall, I'm good. Scott Mayfield, that's actually my guy.
Yeah,
give me Scott Mayfield every day of the week.
For a few years now, you've been clamoring on the Scott Mayfield.
I loved him because of his contract. Even if he was 2.75, like, I give him the Kulak deal.
Yeah,
trade Ceci, run Mayfield, Bouchard, and a Vinny Broberg split on the right side, or Vinny Kulak split on the right side.
I'm all in on that one.
Some people wondering about Ryan Graves out in New Jersey. I'd love Ryan Graves as well, honestly. Is he a UFA? He is, hey? He might be cheaper, but he's a lefty. You can't build a leftorium here, right?
No, you cannot. I'm just looking at... I'm jumping ahead, Tyler. I'm jumping ahead to see what players are available at the trade deadline.
You're looking at, like, not this coming summer. You're looking at next summer's UFAs.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I'll read out some names. You tell me yes or no. These are just right-handed defensemen who will likely be available.
Let me just get in the zone.
Okay. Tyson Barrie.
No. God, why did you start with that?
He was just the highest guy who I don't think is going to make the playoffs. Okay. I'm going to assume Winnipeg kind of fall off a cliff next year. Dylan DeMello.
Tempting.
Tyler Myers.
Good Lord, no.
Ilya Labushkin.
No.
Tanev.
Chris
Tanev.
Yes. Big yes.
Robert Bortuzzo.
No.
Mark Friedman. God, this list sucks.
Yeah.
That's it. They have it, folks. We're screwed.
Okay. Yeah, we're screwed, everybody. Better just give up now. I don't know. It's tough, man. Like, that is going to be a big challenge, is finding a way to upgrade this blue line with the minimal money you have, right? Yeah. Adarath brings up Brett Pesce. I like Brett Pesce.
Is Carolina going to want to move on from him?
Well, I think the problem might be Carolina doesn't have much of a choice but to move on from him. When you look at that blue line that they have right now, and again, a team that's going to be facing, they have 24.1 mil. Maybe I won't call it a cap crunch, but they got guys to sign. Like,
and they don't really have, like, the ghost will probably be gone.
Yeah.
Calvin DeHaan becomes a free agent again.
The fact that blue line, like this year, the blue line of Slavin, Burns, Shea, Ghost, Pesce, DeHaan, Chatfield as well. None of those guys make more than $5.5 million. Yeah, no, they'll probably bring back Pesce. I do like him, though. I think that'd be an awesome fit. He's got one more year. I can't see him moving on. That contract's just too good. Yeah, it's going to be tough because you got to, again, Ceci, I think it's a coin flip. You need to try upgrade this blue line in some way, I think. It wouldn't be like a massive mistake to run back the same group because you can upgrade it at the deadline if you need to. The blue line as constructed can get you into the playoffs.
100%. They could wait.
They could wait, and I like the point you made. You could just wait. Keep $1 million in cap space, wait till the deadline, do something then. Maybe you move Barrie at the deadline. You found a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe next year it's just, instead of Barrie, Schaefer, a first and whatever to get Ekholm, you're just doing a lower case version of it, and you're doing Ceci and a first for someone.
Do you think Kevin Shattenkirk would be someone?
I don't want Kevin Shattenkirk.
No. I was just looking at his numbers the other day because they're limited on the market. His numbers actually aren't that bad for how bad Anaheim actually was. He played a lot of minutes for them. I don't think he's that offensive guy that Washington got a few years ago when they traded for him, but Cam Fowler, no trade list too. But that's just a guy I was looking at as well.
That's fair.
I doubt he would come up here, but
no, he won't.
I would trade a Broberg for him if they took a bit of money.
For Fowler?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, then they're keeping half for a couple of years. He's got to agree to come here. He won't. You got to add to that deal. It's complicated.
Yeah, that's true.
Probably just a bit too complicated. Someone asked if the Oilers have any good defensive prospects coming. No, like the cupboard's bare.
Broberg.
It's Broberg. But where I'll add is that it's not the biggest problem in the world because, Aaron, you can flash this up. Everyone's under team control or can stay for the next 2 years, right? Like Nurse, Ekholm, Ceci, Kulak, Bouchard once he's bridged, Broberg, you'll have to bridge him at some point, but right, like everyone can slide back at some point. You don't need defensive prospects right now. I think they should probably emphasize drafting a few in the next couple of years.
I think they'll use their second round pick on a drafting a defenseman this year.
They have a lot of forwards.
Yeah, Allen's one I like out of Ontario, so who knows if they've seen him play at all this season. There's also they drafted the they drafted that Russian defenseman last year who, reading stuff that Bruce Kurlock has put out there, has been pretty promising. Luka Munzenberger is just a guy who really knows. But yeah, the cupboards are fairly bare on defensemen for the Oilers, which is strange. For a while, it was they didn't have any forwards, and now they don't have any defensemen. Yeah. So we'll see.
Kind of weird because that's usually how it goes, right? You draft heavy on what you're deficient on late in drafts, and then you build up and you go. Interesting stuff. There you go. That was our giant offseason question brought to you by Sherwood Ford, and our player grade brought to you by Star Mechanical, all centered around Cody Ceci and the blue line. Loving everyone hopping in the chat. Sergeant Battle says we should have never traded first pair ready Kesselring. Yeah. First pair on Arizona, and he laughed. I know it was a joke. It was a little tongue in cheek. Yevseyev was his last name. JLM's in. Yeah, JLM's in. He's actually dropped in a bunch of really good comments today. Yevseyev played decent minutes in the KHL at age 18. I don't know. The Russian prospects right now are so hard to get a read on.
Yeah, it's such a difficult thing to evaluate. But yeah, that's kind of what I noticed in him too. He is playing in a men's league right now, and he's playing reliable minutes. And I mean, I think he was a 6th, 5th rounder or something like that. So hey, who knows? Good guy to take a flyer on.
Les threw in CC to Montreal. They got Edmondson, Savard, Justin Barron's on the right side there. Then they have the young pieces, Gooley, Harris, Matheson's on the left side. They aren't interested in Cody Ceci. I just don't really see that at all.
And JLM just put into they have Lassie Thompson and Jacob Bernard-Docker as well. And that's Ottawa.
Ottawa has him, yeah. I don't think Ottawa wants Cody Ceci back.
Bring him back. They need that experience from the Eastern Conference run.
I'm going to save it for Trade Machine tomorrow. My Ottawa idea. I'm going to write it in the show notes right now. There we go. That's a tease. That's a tease. That's how you bring people back for a Friday show. Let's get to our AMA Travel Trade Machine, brought to you by amatravel.ca/dreams, where they have a vacation machine where you just plug everything in. It spits out a vacation. Very cool. Check it out. Here's today's deal. It involves an Alberta team. But it's the Calgary Flames, and they're moving Elias Lindholm as they begin their retooling, and they send him to Minnesota. Minnesota apparently wants help down the middle, and why wouldn't you go after a guy like Elias Lindholm? One, for a bona fide top 6, at times top line centerman. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and it's only $4.8 million. They can afford that, and Minnesota can't afford a lot. What do they give up? Adam Beckman, WHLer, led the Dub in scoring 1 year, or was close.
Like 124 points with Spokane or something.
And you get Minnesota's 2024 first-round pick. So Minnie uses their 2023 first-rounder because they probably need some more prospects in that system. But they give up Beckman, and they give up a first to get Lindholm for next year. Liam, listen, it might seem like a lot to give up, a good prospect and a first for Lindholm. Mm-hmm. I don't think it is, and you're getting a full year of them. This isn't a deadline move, so this is where I'm going. Who says no to this bad boy?
I think Calgary might say no. I wonder if they would want a slightly better prospect than Beckman. I keep wanting to say Beckham.
Yeah.
But Beckman is good, and I think one thing that would benefit them is the fact he is a little bit older.
Yeah.
And that means he's probably a little bit closer to I don't think Calgary wants to be down in the dumps for very long, and they need to kind of get moving a little bit. 24 goals in the AHL last season with Iowa, so it's an interesting one. One team I just thought about this. I wonder if the Pittsburgh Penguins would have any interest in Elias Lindholm.
I could see it.
I don't know what their cap is and all that kind of stuff, and even if they have prospects, but that's a team that wants to start moving on a little bit and get back to that run. Like, interesting, but I could see Minnesota trying to go for this, and because they need to find value. Yeah, really, like that's it.
And so Beckman, his first year, he's played 2 full seasons in the American League. First year, he scored 11 goals in 68 games. This last year, he spiked 24 in just 53. Played 15 less games and more than doubled his goal output. I think he's a prospect who's coming and has substantial value. So I think that's why Calgary might want him. And like you said, he's a guy who could honestly play in your NHL team next year. He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
So that in the first.
I don't like giving Calgary credit, but I will give them credit on this. I love the fact that their AHL team plays in the same city as their NHL team.
Nice, yeah.
Is extremely beneficial, even in stuff like just your staff can be around them all the time. Like if Beckman needs a little bit of extra skills, for example, he gets like the Flames guys are right there and you don't have to call him up for a week to get it. Like it's beneficial. I think more teams should do that, to be honest, but it's an interesting one. And just out of curiosity, I looked, the Pittsburgh Penguins, $20 million in cap space next season.
They're losing some big deals.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Les says Calgary tanking next year. Odin says Calgary says no. Jared says I don't think Calgary's rebuilding. Odin adds it won't be a top pick. QF Pro first rounder is likely above 20. See, I think for Calgary it's a decent chance to take that mini craps to bed next year.
Yeah, big time.
Why not?
When is Minnesota eventually going to run into this cap issue, because they have $15 million in dead cap space next season?
So their dead cap space is jumping. This year it was 12.7. Next year it's 14.7. If the cap, so we all agree, best case scenario is the cap goes up $4 million.
Yeah.
If the cap goes up $4 million, Mini will have $11.2 million. They have 3 UFA forwards, 3 RFA forwards, 3 free agents on the blue line, and they need Philip Gustafsson to get a new deal. So out of that 11.2, Philip Gustafsson probably wants 3 of it.
Yes, definitely.
He had a great year, and he's got arb rights. So if he takes 3, you're down to 8.2. Addison needs a deal. If you bridge him, you're down to probably 7.7. You probably need to in some way replace the Dumba Klingberg opening you now have. So that's going to cost you a couple million. You're down to 5 point something. Sam Steele and a few UFA forwards. You don't have a lot of money, which is why I think they might even add to this deal and throw in more to get a piece like Lindholm for 1 year at 4.8. I think would be very valuable to them.
I wonder if they would put money into the deal.
Calgary eats some?
No, Mini. They trade I don't even know who's
they throw in a third, and Calgary has to take
maybe even a Middleton.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, this is the other thing, dude. Looking at that team, they don't exactly have pieces that you're like, oh, they'll move that easily.
Yeah, I was really hoping when I said that name would just jump out on the page.
The guy, who did they ship to Buffalo? That was just a pure cap dump at the deadline. Jordan Greenway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jordan Greenway, who apparently everybody wanted. And then became a cap dump at the last second. Yeah. But when we were looking through this and we spoke about it off the show, Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be an interesting name this summer, I think so. Too. 1 year left, $3.5 million. Obviously not where he used to be, but hey, maybe some team would take that. If the Oilers didn't have Jack Campbell, I actually wouldn't mind Marc-Andre Fleury on this team for that much.
Yeah, but the Oilers do have Jack Campbell.
Yeah, so we won't be getting him. Maybe Pittsburgh.
I just said the Jays again.
Jays.
I'm speaking like crazy. Let's wrap up the show with our Betway look around the sports world, Liam.
Yes.
Yesterday, I bet on the Blue Jays on the run line to finish off a same-game parlay. It was Chapman to get a hit, Brandon Belt to get a hit, Jays run line. Ding, ding, 0-0, bottom of the 9th or bottom of the 10th or whatever it was. And Danny Jansen hits a bomb. All he had to do was hit a sac fly, hit a bomb, Jays run line miracle. My Betway account nice and flush now. I'm very happy with it. But Jays wrap up their series tonight against the New York Yankees, a big 4-gamer. So giddy up there. Also, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. Who do you think's winning this bad boy?
I think Carolina is 6.
I have Florida in 7.
I mean, how can you
not?
Them?
How can you not?
Yeah. I just think Carolina's defense might be a bit overwhelming
Yeah, like it's freaking good.
Yeah, but saying that, like the Bruins have a good blue line.
Yeah.
Toronto's blue line is good.
Yep.
But this one is like Jake Slavin might be the best defenseman in the league. Nobody ever mentions in that group.
Yeah. No, he's
Very
an elite
good.
shutdown guy for sure. Player props I like tonight: Natchez shot prop, Anthony Duclair goal or points at +115. Natchez is -140 on the shot prop. NBA tonight.
Yeah, Denver Lakers. Denver's taking it. Whatever value you can find, I would just take Denver.
What's the line?
It is, yeah. Lakers were Denver was favored pretty heavily, -210. The spread is 5.5. I think the last game ended up around the 5.
It was 6 exactly.
6 point because the Lakers came back in the fourth quarter, but it was a 12-point swing at one point.
Yeah.
So -110 on the point spread there. Look, Lakers have been a good story, but Denver's also the number 1 seed.
Jokic, Murray.
They're really, really good.
Really good. Michael Porter Jr.
Yes.
He's good.
But LeBron, he's one of the best for a reason. Second best.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Shout out to our friends at Betway. 18+. Please play responsibly. AMA Travel, Star Mechanical, and Sherwood Ford the Giant, who has always provided the Sherwood Ford Giant inbox question. Oilers Nation every day from the Sports Closet studio. We'll be back in the Sports Closet studio tomorrow at noon Mountain Time. There you go. Thanks for tuning in, to everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button before you go, and have a good Thursday.